If you're in your 50s or your early 60s, there's a really good chance you're living inside a retirement lie, and it's quietly stealing the best years you have left. And it's not because you're bad with money. In fact, usually it's the opposite. It's the people who've done everything right. They've saved, they've sacrificed, they've worked hard for decades, who get trapped the worst. In this video, I want to show you 3 things. First, the retirement lie loop that keeps smart, responsible people working years longer than they actually need to. Second, how to measure something I call your life return on work, so you can see when just one more year stops making sense. And third, a simple rule I use with clients that we call your paycheck permission line that tells you when you can safely stop working without gambling your retirement on Wall Street roulette. My name's Antonio. I'm a financial advisor, and I've walked hundreds of people through this transition from a paycheck from work to a retirement paycheck that works for them. And I've seen too many people look back and say, I could have left a few years earlier. I just didn't know. Now, we're not doing guilt today. We're doing clarity. But by the end of this video, my goal is that you understand that lie. You see exactly how it shows up in your life, and you know what to do next so that you don't give away your best years by accident. Now, there's not just one sentence that makes up the retirement lie. It's actually 3 smaller lies that all conspire together to rob you. And it starts with this. For years, you've probably been told some version of, once you hit $1 million, once you hit $2 million, once your portfolio gets to X, then you can retire. It sounds simple, but here's the problem. That number keeps moving. Markets go up, markets go down. Some article says inflation is bad. Another one says healthcare costs are going to skyrocket. And the closer you get to the magic number, nothing changes. The scary articles don't stop. The economy doesn't seem any different to you. All of the uncertainty is still there. And so you assume, I must not have enough. And you keep going. You tell yourself that at the next stop, at the next level of money, it's going to feel different. So what do? You carry on. You keep working until you finally feel like you'll be ready. Now, that's the first part. The second part of the lie is that the idea that if there's no magical portfolio number, well, at least there's got to be a magical age. It's got to be 65 or 67 when the finish line appears, right? Social Security full retirement age, Medicare. And so the story becomes, you're supposed to work until then. That's just what responsible people do. But there's nothing sacred about age 67. For some people, 62 is literally a better time to retire than 67. For others, 64 might be the sweet spot. It could be 58 or 59. The age is not the plan. The paycheck is the plan. I'll show you that in just a minute. Now, the last part of the lie is the sneakiest, and it's this. I'll just know when it's time. When the number looks big enough, when I feel ready, I'll retire. And I can tell you, and I'm telling you this having seen it hundreds of times, I say it a lot here, none of this stuff is theory. I've lived through this with my clients for years. After years of looking people in the eye, I can tell you that most people never actually feel ready, especially the people who are probably wired like you. You're watching financial videos on YouTube. You're savers, you're achievers, you're responsible folks. The I take care of it people. Your whole life, you've been rewarded for pushing a little harder, saving a little more, putting off the gratification. And so, of course, when you get to your late 50s, your early 60s, your brain just keeps doing what it's always done. It's very natural. It's also stealing the best years of your retirement. When you put these 3 lies together, you get what I call the retirement lie loop, and it looks like this. First off, you don't feel like you have enough yet, and so you delay. And then second, something scary happens in the markets or the news, fear goes up, and you push it back another time. And then third, time passes, and retirement feels even bigger and scarier, and so you tell yourself, just work a little bit longer, and then the loop repeats itself. Fear, delay, more lost years, more fear. Meanwhile, the years that you could have spent with the most energy, the most flexibility, the most health, quietly get traded for a bigger number on a screen. Now let's pause for a second. Let me give you a quick self-test. This is our first pro tip of the video. If I ask you, when will you retire? And your honest answer is a number or an age and not a paycheck, you're probably already caught in the retirement lie loop. We're about to fix that. Before we get into the fixing, I want to show you exactly what this lie cost you, because everybody thinks that it's something financial or money, and it's honestly not. And so here we go. Everybody talks about inflation eating away your dollars, but there's another kind of inflation that doesn't show up in an internet article. It's the retirement delay tax, and it shows up in three places: your time, your energy, and your relationships. I'm going to break them down for you right now. Let's start with the obvious one, the time tax. If you retire at 62 instead of at 67, that's 5 more full years where everything was just better. Your knees worked a little bit better. Your back tolerates the hikes and the golf rounds a little easier. You got more patience to play on the floor with the grandkids. All of the things are just going to be a little bit better if they start 5 years sooner. Think about it like this. You know, I love a story. Picture it like you were holding front row concert tickets to your favorite band, and you had the tickets for a long time. Somehow you had them 30 years in advance, and you dreamed about this concert, and you waited, and then the night of the concert, you showed up halfway through the final song. Technically, you still went to the concert. You still made it, but you missed most of the show. That's what working an extra 5 years by default can do to the active part of your retirement. Now, the second tax is a little bit more subtle, but honestly, it might even be a little more important. And it's this: you don't retire as a static version of yourself. You retire as a moving target. Your energy curve changes, your health changes, your capacity to handle stress changes. Now, figuring this out is a concept I call the life return on work. We all know what rate of return is on an investment, but what's your rate of return on another year at your job? In your 30s and your 40s, an extra year might buy you a really high life return on work. You're building your career, you're raising kids, you're building skills, you're stocking your retirement accounts. That extra year of work every year opens up your future options. But by your early 60s, that LRO starts to change. Each extra year you work at 62, at 63, at 64, you're not just trading hours for dollars. You're trading high energy years for lower energy years later. If your portfolio had a chart that looked like what happens to your energy as you go throughout retirement, you'd never keep all of your life savings locked in the work longer bucket. Your energy is a diminishing asset. Now, it's different for everybody, but it's inevitable for everybody as well. If you could see it visually, a simple chart that you could look at when you logged into your 401k that was your energy, you'd say like, wait a second, the value of these years is dropping. I should probably use some of these now while they're still worth the most. That's an example of life return on work. And the question I want you to keep in the back of your mind is this: is another year at this job still paying me a high life return? Or am I mostly just padding a number while some of my best years are quietly slipping away? Now, the third tax is the hardest one to see on the spreadsheet, but it's the easiest one to feel in your gut. There's this little window of life where you're healthy enough to do all the stuff, to travel, to be active. Your spouse is hopefully healthy enough to join you. Your grandkids are old enough to remember you, but young enough to actually want to hang out with you. This is the definition of peak retirement years. But here's the thing: working longer, that retirement lie doesn't just steal those years from you. It steals the shared years you could have had with the people that are in your life. I've sat with people who say, we always said we were going to travel when we retired, but by the time we felt ready, my knees were shot. Or we finally stopped working, but then my husband got sick 6 months later, and the trip we dreamed about never happened. And this is where I want you to pause with me and ask yourself what I call the 2-year window question. If you circled the next 10 years of life on a calendar, which 2 or 3 years would be the most valuable to get back if you knew that your health wouldn't be the same later? Most people can feel that answer pretty quickly. There's a window. The tragedy is that many people sleepwalk right past it because they're trapped in the retirement lie. Now, at this point, you're probably thinking like, okay, Antonio, I get it. Time is valuable. Energy slips, relationships are important, but I'm not staying at work because I love suffering. I'm staying because I'm scared of running out of money. And that's totally fair. Let's talk about why this trap catches the responsible people the most, and then we'll get into how to fix it. First off, there's a whole industry built on something I always like to call Wall Street roulette. It's the idea that your only option is to stay 100% tethered to the stock market, ride out every storm, and just hope that it works out. The more assets you keep invested, the better that model works for the industry. And one of the easiest ways to keep assets on the table is to keep you feeling like you need more of them, that somehow More assets will rid you of all of the concerns I've spent the last few minutes talking about that you have about retiring. And so you see charts about outliving your money, but almost never charts about outliving your health. We stress about a 3% chance of running out of money in your 90s with our Monte Carlo simulations, but we ignore the 100% chance that your energy at 62 is not the same as your energy at 72 or 82. Second, there's this cultural script that says, well, hold on a second, you just do what everybody does. You work until you're 65 or 67, that's retirement age, and then you retire and you play a little golf and you ride off into the sunset. That's an outdated script. That existed when people didn't live as long, when a lot of jobs were really physical and your body literally couldn't do them past a certain age. Pensions created built-in paychecks, so if you just hit the right time for the pension, everything was taken care of. The world you're retiring into is not the world that script was written for. Most people could certainly continue to work a few more years. You're making the most money you've probably ever made. It feels prudent, like the right thing, until you look under the hood and you realize what the money's actually costing you. And third, there's you. You've probably been what I call a relentless accumulator your whole life. You worked hard, you took on the responsibility. I talked about it a little bit at the top of the video. You saved as much as you could for retirement. You paid off the debt. You took care of other people. That identity serves you very well during your working and accumulating years. But there's a point at which that same mindset quietly turns on you, because more here is no longer actually better. More savings? Not necessarily. More hours at work? Probably not. More zeros in the portfolio doesn't buy you more life. There's a sentence I want you to hang on to here. This is the second big pro tip of the video, and it's this. The older you get, the more expensive each dollar you invest will become, because at a certain point, time, not money, becomes your most scarce and valuable resource. We always focus on the math, and the math's not the problem here. Our job from here on out is to figure out whether you're past that point, and if so, how to get you off the treadmill safely. And that's where we shift from the lie to the alternative. Let's do that together now. And so if chasing a magic number and a retirement age isn't cutting it, what should you be chasing instead? Well, for my clients, we don't start with an age. We don't start with a magic portfolio number. We start with a paycheck. We build something I call a retirement paycheck, money that shows up reliably every month, structured in a way that doesn't force you to play Wall Street roulette with every dollar that you've ever saved, and aligned with the life that you actually want to live in retirement. And the question we're trying to answer is this: have you crossed your paycheck permission line yet? In other words, do you have the ability right now to create a paycheck big enough and durable enough that you can give yourself permission to stop working? Let me give you a framework to show you how we think about that in simple terms. Step number one is this. First, figure out what is your minimum monthly paycheck, the amount that covers your real life: roof, food, healthcare, basic fun, not rice and beans, but not your wildest dreams ever. And then two, what's your ideal paycheck? That's the number that lets you travel, to say yes to the extra trip, to spoil the grandkids a little bit, to pay for the experiences you've always talked about. How much is it per month to live that life? Now, none of this is talking about net worth. We're not talking about a magic nest egg number. We're talking about income, because income is what drives retirement, the way your bank account will experience retirement, what comes in and what goes out regularly to fund all of these things. Now we move on to the second step. We map the sources of that paycheck. You've got Social Security, maybe you've got a pension, maybe some rental income. What are other things that will just come in automatically when you retire? And then you've got your savings and investments. This is where my Clear Vision retirement folks are used to hearing me talk about 3 buckets, and it probably wouldn't be a video if I didn't talk about them so quickly. Let's go through it. Your portfolio to build this paycheck. Bucket 1, cash and near-term money. This is things like high-yield savings money, maybe short-term CDs, usually covering the first couple of years of whatever your spending gap is between what you need coming in and what you'll have coming in automatically. Bucket 2, medium-term income-producing assets. Years 3 through 10 of retirement, things like CDs, bonds, dividend-paying stocks, other vehicles that can create reliable income to fund that retirement paycheck. And then bucket number 3, this is your long-term growth money. This is the stuff that can stay invested for the long haul to grow, outpace inflation, and help you with future issues you may have. This is where your stock market exposure lives, but the key is this: it's for later, it's not for next year's groceries. Now, here's the pro tip in this section. If you can cover your minimum paycheck with a combination of those Social Security, pension, other sources of income, and very controlled withdrawals from your retirement portfolio that only rely on bucket number 1 and number 2, you're probably a lot closer to the retirement paycheck than you think. Because that means that your long-term growth bucket, the stuff that is most exposed to Wall Street roulette, is there to support the back half of retirement, not to decide whether you can eat next year. The last step is where we replace the fear of what if with actual planning. Most people stress test ages. Can I retire at 62? Can I retire at 65? Do I have enough at 67? That's the wrong question. The question we really want to answer is, can this paycheck survive the things that can go wrong? The bad markets, the inflation, the normal curveballs. Will the money keep coming in even if those things happen? When we build clear vision retirement plans for folks, we run simulations that say, what happens if the stock market stinks for the first 5 years that you're retired? What if inflation runs hotter than expected for a while? What if one of you passes away early and there's a widow's tax on income and assets that really compress things? Can the portfolio and the paycheck withstand that? We stress test the structure of the paycheck, not just the size of the pile. This is the point in the process where very often people look at me and they go like, well, wait a second. You're showing me all of this. Looks like I could have retired a couple of years ago. Sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes it's close. And here's what you need to do in the next 12 or 18 months to cross that permission line. Either way, we've replaced the retirement lie with a retirement paycheck plan. And I would urge you to do the same. Chances are you're probably a lot closer than you think you are if you're on YouTube watching videos about retirement. By the way, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, boy, I wish I had somebody to help me with that. I know a guy, it's me. Go on down to the description. You can click the link and set up a time to talk. I'll walk you through all of it and we'll see how we're able to help you. Now let's bring this thing home and talk about how you can tell today if the retirement lie is already stealing your best years. Let me give you 3 questions. You don't need a spreadsheet for these. You just need an honest answer. Question number 1, how much of your income could you recreate right now? If your paycheck stopped tomorrow, how much of that income could come from Social Security, from pensions, from other sources? What is a reasonable withdrawal that you could take from your savings in your investment portfolio? If the answer is probably 70 or 80% of your take-home pay, not your gross, not what goes on the tax return, but what actually flows into the checking account, you're probably very close to that paycheck permission line, whether you realize that you are or not. The second question, what's your life return on work today? Is another year at the job still paying you a high return for that work? Or are you mostly trading energy that you'll want back later and health that you can't replace for money that you may never even spend? If your honest answer is, I'm mostly trading time for numbers at this point, you're in the retirement lie loop. And the third question, go back to that 2-year window. If you knew your health would be different at 72 than it will be at 62, would you still choose the same retirement age? If that thought makes your stomach flip a little bit, you're feeling the 2-year window. Now, the good news is, once you see these things, you can do something about them. Part of the point of the video today was to give you a different set of eyes to look at this thing with and not just look at the math. Let me leave you with this. This is not about quitting your job tomorrow in a blaze of glory. This is not about YOLOing your retirement and hoping for the best. This is about not giving away 5 golden, high-energy, high-memory years because a broken system told you to chase a magic number instead of a real plan. If as you're listening to me speak, something inside you is saying, I think I might be a little closer than I thought, your next step is simple. Start working on that retirement plan. Reach out if you need some help with it. And if you want to see how this actually looks in real life with real numbers, watch this next video right here. It's a full retirement challenge case study where I'll show you how to stress test a plan against what can go wrong in retirement.